If you're self-employed or if you're just a really busy person, then chances are you don't have that much time. You don't have that much time outside of your work and whatever other responsibilities you have. So if you want to train and improve your physical health and improve the way that you look, you have to be efficient with the time that you use in the gym. And I have a 3-part strategy for how I stay in good shape while working 50 plus hours a week on my business and also with university work. Those 3 parts are: 1, training very hard during my workouts, and 2, putting an emphasis on quality foods, especially foods that are in high in protein, and 3, active and effective recovery. Training harder each workout, but in a way that saves you time. So the best way to save time, especially if you're really short on time but you still want to grow muscle, is by using drop sets. And if you don't know what a drop set is, it's like you start at one weight, you do maybe 10 reps, and then you drop the weight, you do another 10 reps, and you drop the weight and you do another 10 reps. So I've kind of tweak this a little bit. Most people do 3 sets of a workout, but I try and do like a drop set and go really hard at that drop set, especially if I'm like struggling for time. So let's say I pick, 45 pounds for some sort of exercise. 45 pounds, 45 kilograms, doesn't really matter, but let's say the number 45. And I would basically do that for as many reps as I can. Ideally a bit more than 10 because I'm finding something that's within the 10 rep range. And I'm really pushing myself to go as much as I can at 45 pounds. And then I would, without taking any breaks, I would drop that to 35 pounds. And I would keep on doing those reps without taking a break. And then I would drop that again to 25 pounds. And I'll keep on doing that until I just cannot do it anymore. And on your last rep for that set, it should look like a partial rep. You could barely move up your arm, or you can barely finish the movement for that activity just because you're really pushing yourself. And that's the most effective way to stimulate your muscles. And this will act like a hyper stimulus for your muscles because it's telling your body that it's not strong enough and it needs to adapt. You don't always need a very heavy weight to stimulate your muscles. You can still get a lot of stimulation even if you have a lighter weight, but you're really taking those to failure using drop sets. So after several drop sets, something that's probably easy for you, let's say 25 pounds of an exercise, normally that would be easy for you, but because you've actually tired out your muscles from doing harder work, you end up making that 25 pounds just as difficult as if you were doing 45 pounds because you're really taking it to failure. And you'll notice that your gains will just exponentially increase by doing workouts this way. Another thing you want to work on is training that neuromuscular connection. So your brain and your muscles are connected. The next part I want to talk about is the concentric and the eccentric movements of muscle contractions. Also, when you're doing your workouts and your reps, remember to go really fast on the concentric portion of the movement. So the movement of the muscle contracting upwards, for example, for the bicep curls, go really, really fast for that, and then slowly let it down for the eccentric portion. So that way you're training your nervous system to react very quickly to contract the muscle, and then you're letting your nervous system and you're letting your muscles stay tense and stay contracted to stimulate them as you go down. So that's another way that you can make your workouts a bit more effective. And also on that note, you aren't just training your skeletal muscles. So you're not just training your muscles and your muscle tissue to get bigger and to get stronger, to have more mitochondria, to produce more energy, but you're also training your nervous system. People always forget that the nervous system and the skeletal muscular system are very interlinked. The nervous system sends the messages, which then causes the muscles to contract. And you can actually train these to become more responsive in the same way that you can train these to become more responsive. For example, someone who's been doing a certain movement, let's say it's a squat, if they've just started doing squats, then their form is a bit off. Their body's a little bit not quite sure about that movement if they haven't really done that movement before. But then someone who's been training for many, many years doing that same movement over and over again, their body becomes accustomed to that movement, and the connections between the brain and the neurons between the brain to the muscles, they get much stronger and they get more powerful, and they're able to recruit more muscle fibers to then fire. That's why we have some people that are relatively skinny, but they're also very strong. They're just able to recruit more muscle fibers because their nervous system has been trained to switch on more of the muscle contractions in an area. It's almost like the strength that you could possibly have is capped in a way. Like all your muscles, they don't contract with every movement. Your body is trying to control which muscles contract, or how many of the muscles contract, or how many of the fibers contract, so you don't accidentally rip off your arm, rip off part of your body. That's why when people get electrocuted, they get thrown to the other side of the room, not because there's the current that's throwing them, but because the electric charge goes through their body. It goes through the nerves and through the muscles, and it tells the muscles fire all at once, and they basically jump all the way to the other side of the room. But you can unlock that power and that strength from continuous practice, and really trying to consistently go to the gym and consistently push yourself with your exercises and with your workouts. It's not just something that you can apply to muscle strength, but you can also apply it to like technique when it comes to like certain movements. So for example, if you're boxing, the first time you're throwing a jab, it's going to be really sloppy. Your body's not going to be used to that movement. But then as you practice, you get much stronger. You strengthen that connection between your brain, your neurons, and the muscles that need to be fired in the right coordinate, like in the right sequence to coordinate you to throw a jab in a much more efficient way. So training that is also important, and that just happens from making sure that you're going fast in the concentrics and slow in the eccentrics. And one more point on the working out aspect, just mind your biomechanics. So your body is different to every other person's body in the world. You just have to make sure that you're finding exercises, you're doing movements that you can feel, because some people, they'll do an exercise and they just don't feel it activating. So for example, if I do a sit-up, I don't really feel my abs activating as much as if I do like a decline sit-up. Or for me and my friend, when we go and we train, like when he tries to do the shoulder press machine that I do, he doesn't like it. Like he doesn't get the activation in the right parts of his shoulder. Whereas for me, it feels awesome, and he prefers to do like dumbbell shoulder presses instead. That could be our technique being a little bit off, but it could also mean that our biomechanics are just slightly different. Everyone has different ways in which their joints and their muscles and their nerves, they just want to move in different ways. And you just want to find out which exercises trigger the most activation for you. Like for me, it was also really hard to find a back exercise, or find a way of doing certain back exercises that activated my back. And it was only when I started doing T-bar rows that I could really activate my lats, more so than if I was doing like lat pull downs, more so than if I was doing some other sort of back exercise. So the next part is eating high quality foods that are full of protein. Now, protein is not all the same. We have 22 amino acids, and only some of those are mainly used in building muscle. The others are used for building other parts of your body. And the high quality sources of these amino acids, or the high quality sources of the right proteins, are generally meat, fish, and eggs and chicken. So basically like steak, lamb, chicken, eggs, salmon, most types of fish. These are high quality sources of protein. Whereas something that's from a protein bar, like protein from a protein bar, or even whey protein, they aren't necessarily the highest quality protein that you can use for building muscle. They might have some of the amino acids that you need, but they might not have all of them, or they might not have the micronutrients that also help you absorb them more effectively. Remember that our bodies have evolved not in the modern environment that we have now. Our bodies have evolved over millions of years in nature, and our ancestors, in order to get bigger brains and to get bigger muscles and to increase their protein intake, they ate things like nuts, they ate things like meat and eggs and fish. And those are the things that our bodies already have mechanisms for absorbing really efficiently and just utilizing to the best of the ability. That's why sometimes when you take a protein bar, when you eat a protein bar, when you take some like a protein drink, you don't feel the best, because your body is struggling to kind of break down some of the things that are present in there. And a lot of the times the preservatives and the other chemical additives that they use can actually be very harmful. So drinking some types of whey, eating some types of protein bars, that might actually be worse for you than if you just spent that money buying high quality meats and then cooking them yourself, or finding a restaurant nearby to you that actually makes those foods for a relatively low cost. That way you can just go in and you can just get that food instead of having to waste your time cooking if you're really short on time. Like what I do is, there's a Portuguese chicken place here, and I find that way healthier than just going and getting fried chicken. So I normally eat from there if I'm really tight on time, if I can't make anything myself. And that's normally a very good way for me to get my high quality proteins in. The next part is recovering effectively. Now, the main thing that you need for recovery is sleep. Just resting and not really doing much isn't going to help you as much as sleep is. When you go to sleep, and especially if you sleep for a decent amount of time, so anything that's like 7 hours, 7.5 hours and above, you end up releasing growth hormone. Your body just knows and does all these processes while you sleep to help repair your muscles, to trigger the muscles to grow bigger, to improve your nervous system and the way that your nervous system fires. Everything happens, like everything in terms of growth happens while you sleep. And it doesn't matter if you train really hard. If you're not getting enough sleep, then you're just not going to make the gains. You're not going to recover, and then that's going to impact your next workout. Then you can't train as hard. So ensuring that you have 8 hours of sleep, or even more if you can manage to fit in 8 hours of sleep every night, is the most effective way of growing muscle and maintaining good health. Getting enough sleep also means that it brings down your chances of getting diabetes and other sorts of lifestyle diseases. And sleep is just good for you. Sleep is really, really good for you. Don't skip out on sleep, especially if you're trying to build muscle and to lead a healthier life. And as someone who's really busy and doing a lot of things, making sure that I get a decent amount of sleep helps me bring my best to everything, whether that's to my work, whether that's to my studies, whether that's to the gym when I'm training. Getting a decent amount of sleep just really helps. Lastly, in terms of recovery, you want to have an active form of recovery. If you're taking a rest day, rather than doing nothing, you can actually do some light cardio. And if you're doing some light cardio, it gets your blood flowing, and your blood contains all the nutrients that have come from the food that you've eaten, and that gets taken to your muscles. So ensuring that you're doing some sort of cardio on your days off, just nothing too hard, but just something light to really get the blood flowing, would ensure that your muscles get a continuous supply of oxygen, a continuous supply of nutrients to then grow and get bigger, and then to do what you want, which is give you a really nice physique at the end of the day. And yeah, something as simple as like riding a bike just would help speed up the process of building more muscle and being healthier overall.